Hi everyone, this is Nir Ben-Dvorah, flexiWAN CTO. With me is Ivo Creso, flexiWAN Head of Support. And today we will review what's new in release 6.2x and what is planned next for flexiWAN. Thank you everyone for joining. So let's start. Okay, so what we will cover today is first we will give some overview about release 6.2x. We will show, Ivo will show a use case for network connectivity using VLANs, which is new on 6.2. Also, we will show how to upgrade devices to Ubuntu 20.04. Talk a bit about what is planned for future releases and leave some room for Q&A. So feel free to ask questions on the Q&A. Okay, so release 6.2x, what is basically a major release that we added a few significant features. So first one is that we improved the device interface look. So previously we had a big table that lists all interfaces for every device. We basically summarize this table and allow user to add or remove columns from the table, and also added few options to quick update information for the interfaces, as well as see a page with all the configuration all together. So this is something that Ivo will show in a second. Another feature that a lot of customers were asking about is supporting for VLANs. So we added support for dynamically added VLAN for both LAN and WAN interfaces. We also, since Ubuntu 18.04, which we use until now, it was the end of support from Ubuntu. Then we added the support for Ubuntu 20.04, and we will show how to upgrade. It's possible to upgrade directly from the FlexiManage, the Ubuntu OS, and this will give a couple of years support from the Ubuntu side, including patches for Ubuntu. We also added the advanced BGP configuration, like filter, set next hop, and community setting, and allowing to modify the default VXLAN port. So we use the port 4789, which is a default VXLAN port, but we found that some service providers are manipulating this port, and sometimes the packet is not received correctly at the end. So we allow to modify that to any port, and by that overcome this issue with some of the providers. So from here, I will stop the sharing, and Ivo, you can go next.
Thank you, Nir. Okay, hi everybody, my name is Igor, and I will be doing a few demos for you today. Let me just share my screen. Good, so now screen share. And we can start. So let's get first over the new interfaces layout, which Nir just mentioned. So the new flexiWAN version, which is a completely large under the hood upgrade, also brings also on the hood upgrades. And if we now navigate to interfaces page, you will see that, sorry, actually I went to the wrong device. You will see that we now have a bit different configuration of and layout in general. Those who use flexiWAN, who have used flexiWAN before, may notice that there is a lack of columns right now. So our reasoning was that previously we had a table which showed all possible columns. And it showed a lot of static information, such as MAC address, such as MTU, things that you generally do not want to see all the time. So we compiled a list of basically always on table, visible columns, and we also hid a few of them. This is the new layout. Of course, if you have a different habit, we have also added a new button called Modify Column. And from here, you can actually see the currently displayed columns and also hidden columns. So it's very easy to actually add by just dragging and dropping a new column, and voila, now it shows the missing the column that you wanted to add. You can change also the order of columns and everything. Or finally, you can also just restore defaults. So that's about the columns themselves. The next thing that you may notice is because there is a lack of columns, we've added a new kind of configuration, more complete configuration for each interface. Each interface now has a configure interface knob, and when you click on it, you will be able to see full settings for this specific interface. So you can see all the standard information that you see, whether it's assigned, how it's configured, if it's when receiving IP from the upstream or statically assigned, and so on. We also put the advanced options, allowing you to pick QoS policy for this particular interface or to see the public IP. By default, we actually have stun enabled. This is just for the sake of this demo, I've disabled it, but in general, we allow stun by default in order for NAT traversal to work, in order to establish tunnels behind NAT right after the box. And finally, the newest section, which is the VLAN subinterfaces. You are now able to add VLANs on all kinds of interfaces, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Just please note that during all of this demo, write down all the questions in QA, and we'll get through them at the end of all complete the demos. So moving forward. Yeah, so this is about the interfaces overview. Let's now switch to the first use case, which is the use case network connectivity over VLAN, which highlights our latest feature, VLAN support. So here we have a diagram of two sites. The primary site is flexiWAN, and the secondary site is flexiH2. flexiH1 has our goal is to connect flexiH1 to flexiH2, while connecting flexiH1 via smart switch, which has, so flexiH1 has a smart switch in front of it, using receiving internet using VLAN 10, and also has two clients on the LAN side, VLAN 20 and VLAN 21. So each of the clients will also be connected to a separate VLAN 20 and 21 networks. So this is our goal. This is what we're trying to do. Once we configure flexiH1 from scratch, we will establish tunnel to it, and we will try to communicate from our clients to the flexiH2. So let's get started. Again, as mentioned previously, feel free to ask questions. We will get to them after the presentation. So we have here a newly added device called flexiH1. And if you click on the interfaces, you will be able to see that this device has no interfaces approved or anything just yet. So we'll configure from scratch. And I'll also go through the VLAN functionality in general. So with the latest version of flexiWAN, we have introduced VLANs, and we support VLANs on WAN, LAN, and we have also introduced a new interface type called trunk. So the goal is to basically support interfaces, to support VLANs on all kinds of interfaces that are in use. Our suggestion is to always use trunk, so in order to not to mix tagged and untagged traffic, but you may also add VLANs to the interface which already has untagged traffic. So in this case, I'm going to select trunk. And right now, I'm going to show you the first way how to configure WAN how to configure VLAN on this interface. And do note that this device has a management network. This is how it's connected to FlexiManage. VLANs it's also possible to configure VLANs using a local FlexiEdge UI, but that's only in case you need, if you don't have internet access. and you need a specific VLAN. But in general, we always recommend to configure VLANs using flexiManage. So we'll be configuring these two Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 1 interfaces. So I've switched the interface to assigned and enabled the trunk mode. So now I'm just going to go here, configure interfaces, and expand the sub interfaces. From here, I'm just simply going to click Add VLAN. I'm going to change the tag to 10, the network type to WAN, and from this DHCP static column, I'm going to configure DHCP. This means that the device will receive an IP from the upstream DHCP server using the VLAN tag. Now, this is how we configured the WAN. Now, let's configure the LAN side. The LAN side, I'm also going to assign into trunk mode, change the interface into trunk mode, and I'm going to show you a different way, a quick way to add VLANs to interfaces, which is a plus sign. Whenever you hover on each interface, you can actually add VLANs directly. So in here, I'm simply going to add two VLANs, VLAN 20. Oops. And I'm going to assign an IP of 192.168.6.10.24. Always remember to use CIDR. And then notice that when I clicked add, the system automatically recognized that the second VLAN is the one above the 20. So it's 20 automatically filled in 21. And this is going to be 67.10.24. And as per diagram, we have two clients connected onto behind this trunk interface, which means that the LAN has 6610 single client and 6710 another client. And of course, don't forget, if you want to make things easier and faster, simply go to DHCP and add DHCP server for each of these interfaces. Bingo. Now it should be ready. So now I clicked an update to update device, and it sends the configuration to the device. However, the device is not running because this is a completely brand new device, and I wanted to configure from scratch. And because it's not running, it did not populate any of the IPs just yet. But I wanted to point out, and just for the sake of this demonstration, I have two clients. So I'm demonstrating now these two clients that are going to be that do not have any IPs. So if I do right click here, and if I do right click here, there are no IPs. So let's switch now. Let's turn on the vRouter, and we will click Start Device. And in a few moments, the vRouter will start. And once the vRouter starts, actually flexiWAN will then start to take control of the interfaces and start running. And after that, these interfaces will now populate. So let's give it a few moments while this is happening. And yeah, let's give it a few moments. Let me just switch back to the use case diagram. So this is what we're now doing. We have now configured VLAN 10 on WAN and VLAN 20 and 21 on LAN side. And flexiWAN is connected to layer 2, layer 3 smart switches on both sides. So this is how we are going to receive an IPs. And checking now, yes, in a few moments we are now pending, and now in a few moments we will be running. Yes, now it's running. And if we go back here now to interfaces, I think I clicked too fast a little bit. Yeah, okay, here we go. You can see that the Ethernet 0.10, which represents the 10 tag VLAN, now it has received an IP of 10.102 from the upstream. Remember that this interface is actually configured as the DHCP, which means that it receives an IP from the upstream, while the LAN side is statically configured with these IPs with the DHCP server enabled. So let's check what's going on with our clients. If I do now, I have configured. First one has received an IP. Let's check the second one. The second one has received an IP. And just for the sake of attention to detail, let's try to ping from one side. Yes, and let's try to ping. So I'm pinging inter-client, basically communication, which is working out of the box with flexiWAN. And in general, we try to connect everything right away. So of course, we have firewall in case you do not want your clients to talk and to have them isolated. So now we are getting to the next part of this demo, and feel free to again ask questions during the Q&A. I see that Nir is already answering questions, which is great. So we are now have the device working, and we have also flexiEdge2 working, and flexiEdge2, which is important to point out, has no VLANs. It's just a plain device connected with flexiWAN installed, and that's it. And now I'm going to connect tunnels, establish tunnels between these two sites. So how to do that? I'm simply going to select flexiEdge1, flexiEdge2, and from the actions menu, I'm going to click create tunnels, and then click create tunnels again. That's it. This is probably the fastest way to connect any two sites from all the other vendors. And if you click here to tunnels, you will see that these sites tunnels have been added, and in a few moments it will connect. In the background, it actually often already connects, but we take some time to gather statistics about the interfaces, latency, and so drop rate, and then we show it as connected, and boom, now it's connected. So let's go now back to flexiEdge2. So flexiEdge2 LAN site, LAN IP is 5010. So let's try to ping again from these two clients. Ping 192.168.50.10. Yes, it's responding. Ping 192.168.50.10. Boom, it's responding. So now these two clients from the flexiEdge1, which is connected through the cloud and through the tunnel to flexiEdge2, are able to communicate to flexiEdge2 and its own resources. So yeah, this was a quick demonstration of the first use case, which is demonstrating network connectivity over VLANs. Let me just go quickly over what we just showed. So we configured flexiEdge1 using this device is connected to a layer 3 smart switch. So we configured WAN to receive an IP using upstream from the VLAN 10, and we configured two VLANs on the LAN side. So in this case, flexiWAN will send the tag traffics to the LAN side, and then the switch will distribute it, and from the upstream sends the tag traffic directly to flexiWAN, and we read it because we are set to configure to the port to tag 10 on the WAN side. And then afterwards we demonstrated how to quickly establish tunnels between these two sites. That's it about the VLANs in general. The next step is to cover Ubuntu upgrade to 20.04. So with the new flexiWAN version, we have introduced HostOS option to upgrade. So let me explain first what this is about. Previous flexiWAN versions relied on Ubuntu 18.04 to run flexiWAN on, and our images were also based on Ubuntu 18.04. As 18.04 has reached end of life, we have upgraded and migrated our core to 20.04. And this was a paramount effort, and a huge amount of work went into it. And now we have switched to newer Ubuntu version, and many other under the hood things have also been upgraded. So with the new flexiWAN version and FlexiManage, we actually allow you to upgrade to 20.04 HostOS upgrade directly from FlexiManage. And this is done in two steps. And this is important to take note of. In order to have HostOS upgrade available, first make sure to upgrade the FlexiWAN software, the FlexiEdge itself, to the latest FlexiEdge that is supported, that is running, that is available. And only then, after that, it will work. You will be able to upgrade HostOS directly. A few notes. This is something that you want to schedule and plan. You do not want to hit upgrade on all of your production. So be sure to schedule downtime, because upgrading can take at least up to an hour. It depends on your internet speed, how fast it takes to download files, and also how fast your device works. But in general, on modern hardware, it can take up to 1 hour with relatively normal internet throughput speeds. And finally, the last note that's very important. After upgrading, the device will connect and remain with vRouter stopped. This is by design. This means that you have to, after upgrading, you have to confirm the device is completely upgraded and all the interfaces correctly recognized, and then you're supposed to start vRouter and use it back in production. So let's demonstrate this. So first of all, we have here FlexiEdge 4 device. Sorry, it's not FlexiEdge, FlexiEdge 3. And this device is now running the previous version 6.122, while the latest one is 6.2.18. So we are going to first upgrade the host, the FlexiEdge version first. So as all the other changes that you're supposed to make on flexiWAN, all the main actions are done, handled using the actions button. Simply click upgrade device, select the device, and simply click upgrade device. And it's going to ask you to confirm. And in a few moments, the device will start upgrading. The upgrading process takes very little, just a few moments, up to 30 to 1 minute, 30 seconds to 1 minute. And the device will go offline during that time, but it will come back very soon. Again, to point out, we are now upgrading flexiWAN software. We're still running Ubuntu Bionic. So Ubuntu 18.04 is still running on it, but we're making sure that the flexiWAN code is running the latest version. And in a few moments, the device will come back up and actually come online. And give me a second. It's now upgrading and connecting. Yep, now it's connecting and back syncing the configuration. So if you check now, you can see that the host OS is now set to be Bionic. This means that this device is now ready to be upgraded to the latest supported Linux version, Ubuntu Linux. And what you may also notice is when you log into FlexiManage, we have this warning here, which shows some devices may be running an older Linux distro, which is not supported from July 2023. Also, another thing to point out, we will support the previous version for a little bit, so you don't have to rush. But do keep in mind that Ubuntu is cutting off security updates from it, so it's best to plan as soon as possible to switch to the latest supported version. And with that, let me just finally demonstrate how to upgrade the host OS itself. Again, we will select the device that you wish to upgrade, and from the actions menu, we are going to click host OS upgrade. And from here, it's going to again repeat that it takes up to 1 hour, that it will connect and disconnect many times during the process. So you may even use this device for a while, but we recommend that you basically schedule downtime and just leave the device until it upgrades. And there should be no impact on the device or network configuration. But we have introduced a new feature called recovery info, which will actually help you to recover in case of things happen. Right now, we do not have any, only single known issue, and it's a very rare. So when after clicking yes and after device upgrades, it does not boot. And this happens very rarely in some rare conditions. But still, nevertheless, we have documented it into our documentation under advanced troubleshooting section. So visit docs.flexiwan.com. And here you have a quick fix. Basically, if you end up in kernel panic, all you have to enter is follow these steps, which are just 4 steps, and you'll be able to boot back fully and working without any issues, existing device. Of course, if there is a catastrophic issue during upgrade, if the device is turned off during upgrade, or if there's any kind of issue that you may encounter, we have introduced a new version, new feature called recovery. So recovery allows you to restore configuration of a device that's already added to FlexiManage to the same device. Of course, this is not to be confused with also replace device, because we have replace device. Replace device allows you is for scenario when you're replacing an existing device with a new one, so it syncs the configuration from an existing device to a new device and then decommissions the old one. However, the new device, if you have the same device, in this case, for example, FlexiEdge 3 has failed and it did not connect back up, all you have to do is download from our documentation the latest image, which is always available here. And when you download the image, do a clean installation. And then when you connect back up the device using SSH, you can simply follow the configuration recovery info, which is just 4 simple steps. Copy the token. And so basically you need to navigate to the device using SSH or command line, serial, and copy this token, save it on the device. The device does not need to have any kind of token. It can be out of the box as long as it's working, it has internet connectivity. Just follow these steps and the device will show up in the UI and automatically sync the existing configuration to the same device. Yeah, that's that also covers the recovery. So we covered so far VLANs, we covered how to upgrade the device, and finally, we mentioned briefly the configuration on how to reach the recovery info. With that, I'm moving over to you, Nir.
Yeah, thank you, Ivor. So if you have more questions, please feel free to add to the Q&A. A few words about what we are planning on next releases. So VRRP is the first feature that we are planning. This allows to connect two devices or multiple devices with the HA scheme. So, and clients connect to virtual IP. So if any device fails, we still have other devices that can still run and be connected. Another functionality we are adding is DHCP options directly from the configuration. We also will support NAT on the LAN side. So this is mainly useful if you want to add another layer of NAT on the LAN addresses and maybe translate them to a different address. This is also will be possible. Of course, today we are not exposing any LAN IP publicly. The traffic is encrypted and NATed, but this is another level of NAT that can also translate the LAN addresses. We also adding a notification and alert improvement. So we are allowing to provision every notification on the system, set thresholds for it, decide whether to send email or webhook on the events, what is the priority of every event. So a lot of configuration that will help to trigger an alert and get it as it happens. We are also enhancing the monitoring in order to allow visibility into the traffic and showing applications and what more details about what happens on the network. As always, we improve the scale, but here on the next releases, we will do significant scale improvements that will be able to grow to large amount of devices and both on the Flexi Edge and the Flexi Manage, and more features. Basically, a lot of these features are driven by customer requests. So we are trying to listen to common requests from customer and add them as soon as possible. So I think that that's a cover what we wanted to present today. And here is more, maybe I will also pick a few questions that I think it was to mention here. So to clarify about VLANs, we will support all the functionality that we have today, that we support on physical interface. We will also support them on VLANs, and it's possible to mix physical or VLAN interface, apply policies to it. So basically, any feature that we support today will also be applied on VLAN. And it's also possible to mix multiple types of VLAN, LAN, and WAN on the same physical interface. So this is all supported. I see two new questions. So one is Do we have option for port channels since we have VLANs ready? You mean, what do you mean by port channel? What exactly is meant? It's
Yeah, maybe until the person replies, maybe we can also cover the second question, and I can cover in the meantime. So Jason is asking, according to David's question, I understand the FlexiEdge can be installed on bare metal devices. Would you please explain more about hardware requirements? Sure. So our hardware requirements are pretty straightforward, and we require 2 CPU cores and 4 gigs of RAM for start, and 2 network interfaces. And you can see the system requirements here. That said, we also have certified appliances, and we recommend that you check out flexiWAN certified hardware partners, and these vendors can also provide flexiWAN pre-installed directly to you.
So basically, the requirement we need a minimal 4 GB of RAM. We recommend more if possible. 2 CPUs is for the basic configuration. If we want QoS, we need 1 more core. We need x86 devices and NICs that support DPDK. Basically, these are the requirements, the minimal requirements, and it depends now on what exactly the scale and what exactly the configuration to apply. That maybe dictate more resources, but for most, let's say, common scenario, these are enough. So Anish, maybe we can take maybe we can take the question offline. The pricing, basically, it's part of the discussion with the hardware vendors. So we are not selling the hardware itself. So we list, as Ivor showed before, maybe you can show again. We have on our site a lot of vendors that we certify the software on it, and it's possible to order from them. So it depends which device is ordered. This will show the price.
Yes, and just to add, we have our own pricing for just software available on our website, and you can see the SaaS model and also service provider model, pricing model that we offer.
Yes, and VM, we support VM. We support, as I explained before, I answered one of the questions. We support bare metal, virtual machine, cloud on the main cloud providers, and also we added recently a Kubernetes installation.
Yes, so just to add to what Nir said, we support Google Cloud, AWS, Hetzner, Oracle, DigitalOcean, and so on. It's pretty much possible to install flexiWAN anywhere there as long as they have supported network NICs. In case of the VPS providers, as long as they use KVM and libvirt, you're good to go. And I see Jason has also asked another question. So you have some partners, but customers are not locked to vendors. Yeah, so you have full choice to run flexiWAN on whatever vendor you want to run, whatever hardware, as long as it follows our system requirements, feel free to use. We have recommended vendors, certified vendors, which means that these vendors, we have their hardware in-house, and we made sure that flexiWAN works with it, with their hardware, but you're not obligated to use as long as it's functional and follows our system requirements.
Yeah, and one important note to mention about devices and the pricing also is that we are not charging based on bandwidth. We are charging based on number of instances. So regardless of if it's a large device or small device, basically it's all priced the same based on the number of instances that are used. Okay, so I think that we can end here. Again, if there are more comments, it's possible to send us questions or contact our support, which is on yourfriends@flexiwan.com. So thank you again for participating and looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks.